Hi, my name is Kevin Long. I'm the lead nurse for the Travel Health Clinic at Appalachian State University Student Health Service.
One of several important components of responsible international travel is vaccines. The vaccines for your destination include hepatitis A, hepatitis B, influenza, measles, mumps, and rubella, rabies, typhoid, Tdap or tetanus, and meningitis. Hepatitis A is a foodborne pathogen. It is a vaccine that is important for general health in the United States, but it becomes especially important when traveling abroad. Hepatitis B is a bloodborne pathogen. It is recommended for all international travelers. However, all students should already have hepatitis B, as it is a requirement for college in the state of North Carolina. Influenza is important for general health in the United States as well as for your time abroad. Think about being on a plane for the amount of time of your travel to your destination, sitting next to someone who has the flu. Having the flu vaccine prior to travel in that particular instance is important, as well as for everyday travel throughout the country. For this destination, risk exists from June through January, although off-season transmission can also occur. Measles, mumps, rubella, or MMR is a vaccine that is routinely given in the United States early in your life. It is unlikely that you do not have the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. Measles is highly contagious and is particularly a problem currently in Western Europe because of migration of unvaccinated individuals from countries with poor vaccination programs. Measles, mumps, and rubella is transmitted via droplets from an infected person, coughing or sneezing, and the uninfected person breathing in the droplets. Rabies is of concern in Mexico. There's a risk from wildlife and domestic animals. It is presumed to have widespread distribution. There's a risk from terrestrial mammals, including cat, skunk, excluding dog. Canine rabies was last reported in 2017. Additional animals of risk are monkey, raccoon, and bat. Any bite, scratch, or lick should be taken seriously, as that is all that is required to transmit the disease. Tetanus, diphtheria, and acellular pertussis, also known as Tdap, is a frequent concern in the United States, as well as traveling abroad. It is recommended that you have 1 dose of Tdap within the last 5 years. If you've never had a Tdap, regardless of the last tetanus booster shot, you should get a Tdap. The reason for needing a tetanus within the last 5 years is if you are 5 years and a month after your last tetanus shot and you were to step on a nail here in the United States and you're reported to this clinic or any other clinic for treatment, there's a strong likelihood you will get another tetanus vaccine at that point. Therefore, we would prefer that you are already vaccinated prior to travel, so that if you should have such an incident or exposure, that you would not need to get that vaccine while traveling abroad. Varicella, or chickenpox, is a vaccine that is recommended for all travelers and is a 2-shot series. If you've had chickenpox, then you do not need to get anything further. If you've not had the disease, then it is very important that you receive 2 total doses of varicella. Typhoid is a food and waterborne illness. We're speaking of water that you drink or consume, not water that you play in or bathe in. I recommend that most travelers get the oral typhoid vaccine. It's good for 5 years and it's generally less expensive, whereas the shot is only good for 2 years. Oral typhoid is 1 capsule that you will take every other day for 7 days, and it must be taken on an empty stomach. The recommendation is you get that first thing in the morning, you take it with a full 8 ounces of cold or lukewarm water, wait an hour, eat breakfast, go on about your day. If you normally don't eat breakfast, I recommend that you eat breakfast an hour after taking it. If you do not eat an hour afterwards, it tends to give people fairly severe GI upset. Oral typhoid is not recommended for anyone with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis or other similar stomach or gut issues. Traveler's diarrhea comes from bacteria that gets in the water and or on the outside of fresh fruits and vegetables. It is important that you are drinking commercially prepared water or you are using a filtering bottle or apparatus to render tap water safe to drink. I recommend the LifeStraw Go. It filters 99.9999% of contaminants, including Giardia and Cryptosporidium. When doing research on appropriate and effective water bottles to perform this task, LifeStraw Go was considerably better than its competition. Any other manufactured drink should be fine, such as a canned or bottled drink. Imagine these fruits as categories of fruits and vegetables. Banana is thick skin, you peel it and eat it directly out of the skin. That's a relatively safe fruit to eat. Other fruits that would fall into the banana category would be plantain. Orange is the next category. It is thick skin. You peel it and discard the peel. However, your hands have touched the peel. You then touch the meat of the fruit, which makes it slightly riskier. Other fruits that would fall into the orange category would be any hand-peelable fruit or vegetable, such as any of the citruses. Apple is thin-skinned. You either use a knife to cut it or you're eating the skin itself, which makes it much riskier. Other fruits that would fall into the apple category would be any knife-peelable or fruit vegetable with edible skin, such as pineapple, papaya, mango, or carrots. Lettuce is mostly made of water with lots of nooks and crannies for bacteria and is a really bad idea. Other fruits and vegetables that would fall into this category are sprouts, raw cauliflower, raw broccoli. Cooked food should be fine as long as it's cooked like you would cook it at home. The exception to that is street vendor food. I never recommend street vendor food. You don't know how the food has been handled and leading up to it being served to you. Let's say you did everything exactly right and you still got traveler's diarrhea, which is certainly possible. If you have 2 to 3 bouts of diarrhea in a 24-hour period, you'd begin taking loperamide or Imodium. You would take 2 tablets the first time you need it and 1 tablet with each bout of diarrhea after that. When the diarrhea stops, stop taking the Imodium. If after beginning the Imodium you have 2 to 3 more bouts of diarrhea in a 24-hour period, you would want to begin taking an antibiotic. If you'd like to get a traveler's diarrhea medication, once you've completed this country module, send a MedPortal message to the travel clinic letting me know and I will order that for you. If you need to discuss this further with a travel nurse, please make a travel appointment via the MedPortal with the appointment reason as a general travel question. Malaria is only an issue in portions of the country, as you can see on this map. The area is white with no highlights, area with black dots, a plaid, and a bright red. The white area is low to no risk. The areas where the dots are is low to moderate risk. The plaid is moderate to high risk, and the bright red is considered a severe risk area. If you're only traveling through these areas and not staying in these areas, but staying in the white areas, then you should be okay to use insect precautions. If you're only traveling through these areas or the plaid areas and not staying in these areas, but staying in the white area, then you should be okay to use insect precautions only, depending on your planned activity in the higher risk areas. However, if you're going to spend overnight in or spend a considerable amount of time in the plaid or pink areas, the strong recommendation is that you take an anti-malarial medication. If you're in the area where the black dots are, it is recommended but not necessarily essential to take anti-malarial medication. However, it is essential the good insect precautions are utilized. What are considered good insect precautions will be discussed later. If you should choose to do an anti-malarial medication, it is important for you to know that there are 4 major anti-malarial medications that are used in the United States. One of which is mefloquine. It is a medication that we no longer use at App State because it has been known to cause psychotic breaks in individuals. Therefore, we do not want to take that risk for any of our students. That leaves 3 possible choices. Malarone is a medication that you begin taking 2 days before you arrive in country, daily while in country, and daily for 7 days after you return home. To clarify, the day you take your 3rd tablet should be the day you're landing in country. Doxycycline is a medication you begin taking 2 days before you arrive in country, daily while in country, and daily for 28 days after you return home. To clarify, the day you take your 3rd tablet should be the day you're landing in country. Chloroquine is a weekly medicine you begin taking 2 weeks prior to arrival in country, continued weekly throughout your time there, and weekly for 4 weeks when you return. To clarify, the day you take your 3rd tablet should be the day you're landing in country. Side effects, frequency of taking the medication, and cost of each of these medications has some bearing on what is chosen. The primary concern or side effect of Malarone is that it can cause very vivid dreams or even occasionally nightmares. Malarone tends to be more expensive per tablet since it is a daily medication. Chloroquine can also cause very vivid dreams, but not typically known for causing nightmares. Chloroquine is relatively inexpensive per tablet, and it is a weekly medication. Chloroquine is relatively inexpensive per tablet, and since it is a weekly medication, this antimalarial is not effective in all countries, but in this country it is effective. Doxycycline has the potential for sun sensitivity while you're in country and when you return home, meaning if you don't usually get a sunburn, you should use a sunscreen with moderate to high SPF. If you're prone to get sunburn, then you should use sunscreen with a high SPF and wear appropriate shade clothing. Doxycycline is a very inexpensive medication even though it is a daily medication. Another aspect to keep in mind is that App State Student Health Service does not file insurance. However, you can put it on your student account or pay for it at the time of pickup. Ask for a receipt and then file with your insurance or get reimbursement from a healthcare spending card. If you would prefer to have this sent to your own pharmacy, you can inform the pharmacist of your wishes. Please come prepared to give them the name and phone number of that pharmacy. The cost of medication varies depending on whether you get it in Student Health Service or if you get it through your own pharmacy. Sometimes the cash price at Student Health Service is cheaper than your insurance copay. If your return trip has been delayed or is extended, please contact the travel clinic as soon as possible to get you the appropriate number of tabs for you to complete the preventative treatment. Once you've completed this module, if you should choose to get an anti-malarial medicine, please send a MedPortal message to the travel nurse requesting medication that you have chosen, and the travel nurse will order that medication for you. If you have questions about each of these medications and what the right choice for you is, please set up a brief travel visit with a travel nurse. You can do this by going to the Appointment tab in MedPortal and select General Questions as the appointment reason with the travel clinic. Earlier, I mentioned insect precautions. Insect precautions consist of using bug spray that contains DEET that is 30 to 40%. If you look at the bottom of the can label, you should see a percentage. Once again, you're looking for 30 to 40%. Anything less than 30 is not strong enough, and anything greater than 40, you run the risk of burning your skin. It is recommended that bug spray be applied 4 times a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and bedtime. That's the way I encourage people to remember when putting it on. Breakfast being first thing in the morning, lunch at lunchtime, dinner at dinner time, and your bedtime application of bug spray is when it starts to get dark. This will cover you through the peak times of mosquitoes biting, as well as the peak times you'll be sweating it off. If you're wearing sunscreen and bug spray, sunscreen should be applied first, wait 5 minutes, then apply your bug spray. When you go to reapply your bug spray, you also need to reapply your sunscreen, which means you'll need to take a baby wipe or similar, wipe down your exposed areas of skin, and reapply your sunscreen. Wait 5 minutes and reapply your bug spray. Mosquito netting over your sleep area is necessary if you're not in an environment that has windows or air conditioning. Long sleeves and long pants are also recommended when you're in a high humidity and high vegetation environment. Any questions so far?
Not so far. I have a good understanding.
Okay, good. Earlier, we talked about malaria and the necessity for insect precautions. There are additional diseases that are insect-driven diseases which require insect precautions as well. There is a significant risk of dengue fever in urban and rural areas throughout the country in elevations below 7,500 feet. Therefore, observing good insect precautions is essential. There have been more than 2,600 cases of dengue fever per week, which is a significant increase over average incidence. Nearly 250,000 cases have been reported since June 2019. The outbreak has passed its peak. However, travelers should observe strict daytime insect precautions. There's a risk of Zika throughout the country as well in elevations below 7,500 feet. Pregnant women should not travel to this country if it is a non-essential travel. If travel is essential, pregnant women should observe strict daytime insect precautions. Throughout the country, West Nile virus is a small risk and concern. However, any concern is one that you would need to be taken seriously. Good insect precautions are recommended. A tick-driven disease of concern is rickettsial infection. It's a low risk throughout the country, but it's still a risk. It's mainly a risk in densely vegetated areas. However, it can also occur in urban areas. At 30% DEET, it starts to repel ticks, so good insect precautions are recommended. Chagas disease is presumed to be a small risk in rural areas throughout the country. Travelers should avoid staying overnight in houses constructed of mud, adobe brick, or palm thatch covered houses. If you must stay in this type of structure, then sleeping with a mosquito net over your sleeping area is essential. Leishmaniasis is a skin disease that exists throughout the country and is especially a risk for travelers on rafting trips or staying in jungle lodges. Travelers should observe insect precautions from dusk to dawn. Leptospirosis exists throughout the country. Travelers who anticipate activity with extensive outdoor exposure, such as hiking, biking, swimming, and rafting are at the highest risk. My rule of thumb is, if you can't see the bottom of the water due to the murkiness, then don't get in it. If you can't see that the water is moving, don't get in it. Melioidosis has sporadic cases throughout the country. Travelers should always wear proper footwear in damp environments, which includes soil and sand. If you're on the beach and you're going to lie down in the sand, you should put a towel or some other barrier device between you and the sand. Helminth's disease is a low risk throughout the country. Helminth's disease is also a soil-transmitted disease. Travelers should follow strict food and beverage precautions and wear appropriate footwear. There's a small risk of Lyme disease and is presumed to have widespread distribution in some or all forested areas. Transmission primarily occurs from June through November. A risk from jellyfish exists, including the highly venomous Portuguese man-o'-war, the four-handed box jellyfish, and Pacific sea nettles. Travelers launching boats or fishing in the surf are especially at risk from coral, stonefish, and sea urchin. Risk also exists from thimble jellyfish, but is limited to the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, primarily March through August. Travelers should seek out and heed posted warning and refrain from bathing in unmarked and unpatrolled areas of the beach. Low risk of ciguatera poisoning exists and is limited to coastal areas. Travelers should avoid consumption of reef fish such as amberjack, barracuda, grouper, and snapper. Toxin remains even when the fish is well cooked. Brucellosis risk exists throughout the country. Travelers should avoid consumption of unpasteurized dairy products. Air pollution can be a bit of an issue, particularly in the big cities, depending on the time of year. It is recommended that all travelers carry with them 2 bandanas. Water can be poured on top of the bandanas and then wrung out, can work as a fairly decent particulate mask in times of need. Those with lung diseases or at times with extreme heat should avoid prolonged or heavy outdoor exertion. Snakes can be a bit of an issue, so it's something that you should think about if you're going to be in vegetation. It is recommended that you wear boots and long pants for any high-threat situations. If you're considering climbing on or through anything, think about if there could be a snake present. If you're bitten by a snake, take note of the snake's coloring and head shape, then seek medical care immediately. Even non-poisonous snake bites can get infected if not treated properly. Due to ongoing violence and organized crime, the United States Department of State advises avoiding travel to certain areas. Please refer to travel.state.gov/travel/advisory for the most up-to-date concerns and advisories. Key security threats include kidnappings, violent crimes throughout most of the country, especially areas that are frequented by tourists. Petty crimes include intentional drugging of food and drink to facilitate robbery or assault. Occurs throughout the country, including airport areas frequented by tourists and includes resort areas. Some include crimes committed by people posing as police officers and unethical conduct by healthcare providers. Protests and demonstrations are also areas of concern when traveling in Mexico. It is advised that if you encounter a protest or demonstration, that you turn around and go the other way. For medical care in Mexico, adequate medical care that meets most international standards is available in major cities. Highly specialized care or complex emergencies may require evacuation. Medical care throughout the rest of the country is inadequate and usually does not meet international standards. It is recommended that you use GeoBlo app to locate facilities that accept their insurance. I hope you find this course to be informative.